Hello, my dear listener. I hope you're all doing well today and welcome to our lesson. So today we will talk about the Unit 13, Business Cycles. And in front of you, Kakhorova Nigina Abduvahidovna, an English teacher of Kashir State Technical University. So let's get our lesson started. Here are what we are going to learn by the end of the lesson today. Firstly, understand the concept of business cycles. Secondly, learn the states of economic fluctuations. Thirdly, practice the grammar, especially first conditional. And the fourth one, review the topic with listening and other exercises. Staying loyal to our traditions, I'm going to ask you several questions before moving to the main part, and you should think and prepare your answers. So, first question, have you ever noticed prices or employment changing during a year? Second question, why do economies sometimes grow and sometimes shrink? And third question, can businesses predict economic booms or recessions? And now let's discuss an important economic topic called business cycles. Business cycles describe how the economy changes over time. Every country experiences periods of growth and decline, and these changes affect businesses, jobs, salaries, prices, and people's daily life. A business cycle is the natural rise and fall of economic activity in a country over a period of time. Economists usually measure this change using GDP, or gross domestic product, which shows the total value of goods and services produced in a country. And there are four main stages of business cycle. The first stage is expansion. During expansion, the economy grows. Businesses produce more goods. Companies hire more workers. Salaries increase and unemployment decreases. People spend more money and GDP rises. A real-life example of expansion happened in many countries after the COVID-19 pandemic restrictions ended. Restaurants reopened. Tourism increased, airlines sold more tickets, and many businesses started hiring workers again. Online shopping companies like Amazon and food delivery services also experienced rapid growth during this period. The second stage is the peak. This is the highest point of economic growth. Businesses are very active, employment is high, and the economy is strong. However, inflation may also increase because people spend too much money and demand becomes very high. For example, before the 2008 financial crisis, housing prices in the United States increased rapidly. Many people bought expensive houses and banks gave too many loans. The economy looked very strong, but this growth was unhealthy and couldn't continue for a long time. The third stage is contraction, also called a recession. During this stage, economic activity slows down. Companies may reduce production, unemployment increases, and people spend less money. And as a result, GDP decreases. One famous example is the 2008 global financial crisis. Many banks and businesses faced serious financial problems. Millions of people lost their jobs. Companies closed, and economies around the world experienced a major slowdown. Car companies reduced production, and many families could not pay their loans. Another example happened during the COVID-19 pandemic in 2020. Airports became empty, tourism stopped, shops closed, and many workers lost their jobs because businesses could not operate normally. And the final stage is the trough. This is the lowest point of the business cycle. The economy becomes weak, many businesses struggle, and unemployment is usually high. After the trough, the economy slowly begins to recover again, starting a new cycle. For example, after the pandemic, governments supported businesses and healthcare systems. Slowly, factories reopened, students returned to schools, and tourism began growing again. This showed the beginning of economic recovery. So, how does GDP change during expansion and contraction? During expansion, GDP increases because businesses produce more goods and services. During contraction, GDP falls because production and spending decrease. Understanding business cycles is very important because they help governments, businesses, and individuals prepare for economic changes. Companies can plan investments, governments can create better economic policies, and people can make smarter financial decisions for the future. For example, if businesses understand that a recession may happen soon, they may save money instead of spending too much. Families may also avoid unnecessary expenses and prepare for difficult economic conditions. To conclude, business cycles are a normal part of every economy. But understanding the stages of expansion, peak, contraction, and trough, we can better understand how the economy works and how economic changes influence our lives. Well done, dear listeners. Now it's high time we quickly checked out our comprehension on topic by answering the following questions. So the first question, what is a business cycle? Second question, name the 4 stages of business cycles. Third question, how does GDP change during expansion and contraction? The fourth question, give a real-life example of a recession. And the last one, why is it important to understand business cycles? Now let's do the true and false exercise where you should read the statements and decide if they are true or false. You'll be given 30 seconds and you may take extra time by pressing pause, and we'll be back soon and check out answers together. Now let's check the statements and see whether they are true or false. First one, business cycles are completely predictable. This is false. Business cycles are difficult to predict because many unexpected factors such as wars, pandemics, inflation, and global crisis can affect the economy. Second one, expansion is characterized by rising GDP and employment. That statement is true. During expansion, businesses grow, GDP increases, and more people get jobs. A peak is the lowest point of the economy. This is false. A peak is actually the highest point of the economic growth before the economy starts slowing down. Fourth one, contraction is also called a recession. That's true. The fifth one, trough is when recovery starts. The statement is true. The trough is the lowest stage of the business cycle, and after this point, the economy usually begins to recover. Sixth one, government policies can influence business cycles. That's true. Governments can change taxes, interest rates, and spending to help stabilize the economy during difficult times. The seventh one, inflation usually rises during expansion. That's true. When people spend more money and demand increases, prices often rise. causing inflation. 8.1. Global events have no impact on business cycles. That's false. Global events like COVID-19 pandemic, wars, or financial crisis can strongly affect economies around the world. So now let's do the matching exercise. Here you should match the words with their appropriate definitions, and you'll be given 30 seconds, and after that we'll come and check our answers. Now let's check the answers. So the first word, expansion, matches with the definition, period of economic growth. The next word, peak, matches with the definition, economy reached its highest point. The next words, contraction and recession, match the definition, economic slowdown with rising unemployment. Trough. This is the lowest point of economic activity. GDP, it equals with the definition, total value of goods and services produced. Unemployment, this is the number of people without jobs. And the last one, inflation, this is the rise in prices across the economy. All right, and well done, everyone. Now let's strengthen our knowledge about the topic by watching some interesting video, and we will continue our lesson.
Why does the economy grow, slow down, crash, and recover over and over again? Why do we see periods of booming job markets, followed by layoffs, recessions, or inflation? And more importantly, can we predict these ups and downs? Today, we're unraveling one of the most fundamental forces in economics, the business cycle. Welcome to Unravel, Money and Economics. In this channel, we simplify the world of finance, economics, and money, so you can understand how it all works, no matter your background. Let's start with the basics. The business cycle refers to the natural rise and fall of economic activity over time. It's not random, it follows a pattern, and every economy goes through it. Most economists agree on 4 key phases: expansion, peak, contraction, and trough. Let's break them down. 1. Expansion. This is when the economy is growing. Businesses invest, people get hired, consumers spend more, GDP rises, profits increase, stock markets often go up, confidence is high. But here's the catch. If growth continues for too long, it can create inflation when prices rise too fast. And eventually, this leads us to the next phase. 2. Peak. The peak is the height of the boom. Spending is high. Production is at full tilt. Unemployment is low, but it's also where warning signs often begin to appear. Asset bubbles may form. Wages might outpace productivity, and central banks, like the US Federal Reserve, might step in to raise interest rates to cool things down. And when that happens, 3. Contraction. This is the downturn, also known as a recession if it lasts long enough. Businesses cut back, layoffs happen, consumers spend less, stock markets often fall, confidence dips. It doesn't always mean a crash, but it does mean the economy is slowing. And sometimes that slowdown is painful. But then comes the reset. 4. Trough. The trough is the bottom of the cycle. It's where things stop falling and start turning around. Interest rates might be cut, governments may boost spending, and slowly, growth returns. That brings us back to expansion, and the cycle continues. But here's the big question. Why does this cycle happen in the first place? The answer? Human behavior, credit cycles, innovation, shocks, like wars or pandemics, and policy responses all play a role. The economy is driven by millions of decisions, by consumers, investors, governments, and businesses. Sometimes we overspend. Sometimes we panic. Sometimes we innovate faster than systems can adapt. That's why these cycles are hard to eliminate, because they reflect how we react to change. Let's pause for a moment. Can you think of the last time you personally felt a boom or bust? Was it a job opportunity, a housing crisis, a moment when prices felt out of control? Let us know in the comments. We'd love to hear your story. Now, here's why understanding the business cycle matters. It affects your job prospects, your investments, interest rates on your mortgage or student loans, whether businesses hire or freeze, and even how governments plan their budgets. When you understand where we are in the cycle, you can make smarter decisions. But is it predictable? Sort of. Economists use indicators like GDP growth, unemployment rates, and inflation data to track where we are. But timing the exact turning points, that's incredibly hard. Still, governments and central banks use tools like monetary policy, changing interest rates, and fiscal policy, taxes and spending, to help smooth out the extremes. It doesn't stop the cycle, but it can cushion the blows. For example, in 2008, central banks slashed interest rates and launched stimulus programs to stop the Great Recession. During COVID-19, massive government spending and ultra-low interest rates were used to prevent a depression. But these responses can also create new risks, like inflation, debt, or asset bubbles. So there's always a trade-off. The takeaway? The business cycle is a natural part of how economies evolve. Understanding it gives you insight into not just economics, but the world around you. Because once you know the rhythm, you stop being surprised by the beat.
Now let's move to our grammar part, the first conditional. The first conditional is used to talk about real future possibilities. We use it when we think something is likely or possible to happen in the future. The structure is simple and important. If plus present simple and will plus base verb. For example, if GDP rises next year, unemployment will decrease. This means there is a real possibility that GDP may rise in the future. And another example, businesses will expand if consumers' confidence grows. Here, business growth depends on consumer confidence. We often use signal words such as if, when, unless, provided that. For example, if inflation increases, people will spend less money. When the economy improves, companies will hire more workers. Unless businesses adapt, they will lose profits. And remember an important grammar rule. After if, we use the present simple, not future tense. And, for example, if the economy grows, businesses will invest more. But if we say if the economy will grow, businesses will invest more, this will be incorrect. The first conditional is very useful in economies because economists often make predictions about future events and possible economic changes. Now let's talk about your homework project. Your homework is called Design Your Own Mini Economy. For this project, you will create your own fictional country or city. You can invent the name, industries, economy, and economic situation. In your writing, you should include first, describe your country's GDP and economic condition. And second, explain which stage of the business cycle your country is experiencing. Is it in expansion, in contraction, recession, peak, or trough? And third, describe the main industries in your economy. For example, technology, tourism, agriculture, factories, or energy. Then make predictions about what may happen next quarter using the first conditional. For example, if tourism increases, GDP will rise. If inflation becomes too high, unemployment will increase. If businesses invest more money, the economy will expand, and so on. And also remember to use at least 5 economic terms from today's lesson, such as GDP, inflation, recession, unemployment, expansion, contraction, peak, or trough. Your project should be around 300 or 400 words. Be creative, use your imagination, and try to combine both grammar and economic knowledge together. And this is the end of our today's lesson. See you in the next, and goodbye.